Let's get to Vice President Mike Pence. Talking of China, he took a hardline stance on the country yet again yesterday, taking a shot at the NBA, saying they were, quote, wholly owned subsidy of China. It's pretty harsh. Well, NBA legend Charles Barkley didn't like that. Roll the tape.
Vice President Pence needs to shut the hell up, number one. All American companies are doing business in China. All American companies are doing business in China. I thought the criticism of Commissioner Silver and LeBron James was unfair. Listen, Daryl Morey, who I like, he can say whatever he wants to, but there are consequences. But I don't understand why these holier than thou politicians, if they so want to worry about China, why don't they stop all transactions with China? President Trump has been talking about and been arguing with tariffs for China for the last 2 years.
Well, what do you really think, Charles? Christian Whiton joins me now, former State Department guy. Christian, what's your take on this? Charles Barkley really weighing in.
Yeah, and this echoes, of course, what LeBron James said.
Right.
You know, if people in the civil rights movement had put money ahead of morality, which is just what he did, then he may not have voting rights today. What he's doing is outrageous. And if you look, Nike, I mean, this is what Pence was great about Pence's speech on so many levels, is calling out these preening, morally, upright, supposedly companies. So Nike, who puts Colin Kaepernick up on a pedestal, this is a guy who disrespected the flag, disrespected our national anthem. He thinks he's aggrieved even though he's rich and has had a pretty good life. Yeah. So, you know, they do all that. And then when they go into China, they just leave their morals at the door. You know, Nike, which actually is rare. I mean, he said, you know, all these companies are in China. Yeah. That's not true. Nike is a rare company that does break out earnings in China and does make money. A lot of people, a lot of companies who go in don't realize that they're going to be robbed of their IP and not actually profit from being in China. But, you know, Nike pulled off Houston Rockets material in an attempt to please China after the controversy.
Well, it's interesting. Look, if I'm doing business in China and I'm in China, I would be, you know, I'd be respectful. I understand the way they do their business. I don't particularly agree with it. But when you're in America and you're not even allowed to criticize China, then that crosses the line for the almighty buck. And that's what really bothers me about this.
Yeah, that's right. And again, going back to just sort of the clarity of the issue, you know, South Park addressed this recently. It's really been, you know, we talked in the last segment about a bipartisan approach with concern to China. It's one of the few issues that unites Washington today. I had some Hong Kong democracy figures in Washington this weekend. You know, both Democrats, Republicans are concerned, and rightly so, because, you know, for years under administrations of both parties, there was this kowtowing to China. Our companies still do it. You know, it's only mildly atrocious if they're actually making lots of money, and a lot of times they don't.
But if those Christian Whiton Industries had a big operation in China, would you be hesitant to call them out? Because you have to walk a bit of a tightrope, don't you? To Charles, I'm not saying that Charles Barkley is right, but when you have to do business in a country which is completely different to the way we operate, and your business is doing very well there, would you be critical of the regime?
Certainly, you know, it's going to cost you. There's no doubt about that. You know, everyone in the audience at some point has probably put morality before money, whether it's just speaking truth to power, maybe pushing back against the boss when he suggests something wrong. So, you know, if people like us can take risks, then someone who's super rich like Barkley hopefully can. You know, the advice is, again, going into the China market, which, you know, talking to an energy company, Fortune 10 CEO, say, oh, you have to have a strategy for China. It's like, really? You know, there are 6 billion other people on planet Earth. There are other huge markets like Brazil. There are other big East Asian markets that are growing like Indonesia. There are mature ones like Japan. You know, the list goes on. So my message would be, if you don't want to have to check your legal rights and your morality at the door, then maybe not focus on building business there.
All right. Good place to end it. Christian, thank you so much.
Thanks,
Good
Ed.
stuff.